If you've caught yourself wondering why everyone on your screen suddenly looks smoother, brighter, and oddly well-rested, take a breath. You're not missing a miracle supplement. You're not alone in aging faster than the rest of the population. What's actually happened is quieter and more technical. Cameras started wearing makeup before most people noticed. This shift didn't announce itself with warnings or explanations. There was no pop-up saying reality has been adjusted. It arrived bundled with convenience, slipping in as devices improved and expectations quietly changed around us. Phones got better cameras, video calls became normal, social platforms competed on polish. Somewhere in that process, looking better than real stopped being a special effect and became the default setting. Nobody voted on it. It just became how screens preferred to present people. Many people notice the gap socially, not technically. You join a Zoom call and wonder why everyone looks rested, hydrated, and suspiciously consistent. Then you switch to your phone's regular camera and think something must be wrong. That contrast is the clue. It's not that your camera is cruel. It's that other cameras are lying more enthusiastically. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram pushed this fastest. Filters didn't begin as replacements. Early ones were obvious, playful, and clearly artificial, which made them easy to dismiss. Dog ears, sparkles, color tints. But as engagement rewarded smoother faces and brighter eyes, filters became quieter and more ambitious. TikTok's bold glamour filter doesn't decorate your face. It swaps it, adjusting structure, texture, and lighting continuously as you move. There's no button labeled fantasy, it just works. At the same time, work tools followed a softer version of the same logic. Zoom didn't add lipstick, it added touch up my appearance, a name that sounds like straightening a collar before a meeting. What it actually does is smooth skin, soften shadows, and reduce contrast. Enough to make everyone look a little more rested than they are at 8:30 in the morning. And in many cases, it's already on before anyone thinks to check. Phones joined in quietly. The iPhone camera doesn't just capture light anymore, it processes it aggressively. HDR balances shadows, photographic styles flatten texture. Skin smoothing appears even when you haven't asked for it, especially on front-facing cameras. None of this is labeled as makeup. It's called enhancement, optimization, smart processing. That's where confusion sets in. You're no longer comparing yourself to raw reality. You're comparing yourself to a feed of people using invisible polish, often without realizing it. That's why an unfiltered face can feel jarringly honest. It's not worse, it's just unassisted. There's an older version of this idea, flattering dressing room lights and soft bathroom mirrors. The difference now is scale and synchronization. The mirror cheats for everyone at once. Most people aren't hiding anything intentionally. They just notice they look better in one place than another and accept it. Once you understand the mechanics, the shock fades, and the faces on screen start making sense. If you've been feeling like everyone else suddenly looks better on screen, this is the point where the mystery becomes mechanical. Nothing mystical is happening to faces. Cameras are doing work that once required effort, careful lighting, and a forgiving mirror, quietly changing expectations without asking permission. This shift didn't arrive with an announcement. It came wrapped in technical improvements, better sensors, smarter software, faster processing. Each step sounded reasonable on its own, and together they created a new baseline where looking polished stopped being optional and started being automatic for anyone on screen. The loudest and easiest example to misunderstand is TikTok's bold glamour filter. It isn't makeup in any traditional sense. It doesn't add color. It analyzes your face in real time and replaces it with a refined version that keeps moving as you do. Bone structure subtly shifts, skin texture smooths, eyes brighten, lighting adjusts continuously. The key detail is motion tracking, which makes the result feel natural while it's happening. There's no pasted-on moment. That realism explains why people feel startled when they finally see it turned off. Older filters were decorative and obvious, which made them easy to dismiss. Dog ears announced themselves, sparkles asked to be laughed at. Bold glamour does none of that. It stays quiet, keeps expressions intact, and invents a face that still feels like yours. That quiet replacement is why many people describe it as unsettling rather than silly. It doesn't decorate identity, it substitutes it while pretending nothing has changed. The effect isn't theatrical. It's procedural, and that makes it harder to notice until contrast reveals it. Zoom runs a softer version of the same logic. Touch up my appearance sounds harmless, like fixing bad lighting. In practice, it smooths skin, softens shadows, and reduces contrast just enough to erase tired edges without altering who someone is. It's subtle by design. Often it's already enabled, which means many people have never seen themselves unassisted in that setting. The environment quietly establishes a polished norm before anyone thinks to question whether it's accurate or simply convenient. Phones participate even more quietly. The iPhone camera captures data and then processes it aggressively. HDR balances highlights and shadows. Photographic styles flatten texture and even tone. Front-facing lenses exaggerate features up close, so smoothing steps in automatically. None of this is labeled as beauty work. It's called optimization, smart processing, better results. That language matters because it frames intervention as neutral improvement rather than aesthetic choice, even when the outcome changes how faces are perceived and compared. This is where confusion creeps in. You're no longer comparing yourself to raw reality. You're comparing yourself to a mix of filters and adjustments others may not even know they're using. Filters invent faces. Adjustments polish lighting. Knowing the difference restores clarity. Once you understand that, the emotional sting softens. It stops feeling like everyone else is aging better. It starts feeling like cameras are doing favors unevenly. That realization doesn't fix everything, but it does make what you're seeing finally make sense. By the time you understand how much quiet polish is happening by default, the question shifts from what's wrong with your face to when you actually want the polish and when you don't, which is a calmer decision and one that quietly returns control to where it belongs. The useful thing to remember is that the world didn't suddenly become deceptive. It simply updated without asking. As cameras improved, software got smarter, and defaults grew friendlier to the eye, while most people kept expectations formed when cameras either liked you or didn't. That mismatch creates the discomfort, not the technology itself, because expectations stayed still while systems moved forward, quietly reshaping what looks normal on screen without any announcement or moment where anyone agreed to change the rules together. We've handled versions of this before, surviving dial-up tones that screamed through houses, fluorescent office lights that made everyone look unwell by noon, and mirrors that varied wildly by room, which trained us to adapt without much ceremony or complaint. This is that same adjustment again, just faster and synchronized, with fewer chances to opt out, which can feel overwhelming until you recognize it as a familiar pattern rather than a personal failure to keep up with appearances. So filters aren't really the enemy here, pressure is, especially the pressure to look a certain way because everyone else appears to, and the pressure to keep pace because the screen makes effort look automatic and effortless. There are moments where digital makeup makes sense, like family video calls with bad lighting, work calls where clarity matters more than texture, or social clips where polish is part of the shared understanding and no one mistakes it for reality. In those moments, using the tools isn't selling out, it's context-aware, a practical choice that acknowledges the setting instead of pretending every interaction needs to represent raw, unfiltered truth at all times. There are also moments where turning everything off is the better move, especially serious conversations or real check-ins where honesty matters more than presentation and switching modes becomes the actual skill to learn. Once you see this clearly, how you read other people changes, as overly smooth Zoom faces stop feeling like comparison points and flawless videos stop feeling like personal failures, revealing softened shadows, flattened texture, and impossible lighting cues. There's quiet relief in realizing most people aren't curating anything intentionally. They're leaving defaults alone as cameras decide, software smooths, meetings start, and momentum carries everything forward without vanity or conspiracy. The real advantage isn't looking younger or better. It's staying oriented, choosing instead of drifting, keeping pace on purpose, still learning, still adjusting, still laughing when tech overreaches, still present, and seeing the next move clearly.